Greetings, Commanders! Alright, today we've got an idea, a concept idea video. I don't know if I love this idea or I hate this idea, but someone brought up, I was asking people what do they think, would be good changes for the game, and we were talking about Rangers and all types of meta stuff, and someone said, what if Plasma was all troop types? Instead of just being infantry, what if Plasma's Quantum Blast was like Grievous's heal? It just worked with all troops. So instead of infantry, you could use all types. And then, of course, his main skill is a dodge skill, which kind of requires, that the basic infantry dodge build to get value out of. But Plasma is very much a commander that you use two different ways. There's like a pure bomb Plasma, and then there's a combat Plasma. Now, I'll admit that the combat Plasma, with the gear I use on the right over here, Gemini, Libra, Scorpio, all those things, that typical offensive balance gear gems, is great for that Plasma, and the combat Plasma blows up well, as opposed to a pure bomb Plasma that the sole goal is just to use tier 2 to punish somebody who's not using maybe tier suppression on a high tier march. It's definitely a different build. But going back to the concept is, if you gave Plasma Walker troops typically have higher defense, HP, and attack balanced stats than airships or infantry. Because remember, infantry doesn't have very high hit points. Walker should have twice. No, actually it's the same. All right, so it's going to be harder to get those damage caps on the top of Walker troops if he had the ability. But you've seen players with like tier 9, tier 10, tier 11 using Plasma with different troop types. Because you can. Because, for example, tier 9 can also trigger Plasma skills. The Walkers can. The airships cannot. But the reason I thought it was interesting is because it comes back to this conversation about commanders and what they do and how they play. And really, I think we've kind of narrowed it down pretty easily. There are main commanders, right? Either offense or defense. And then there are utility commanders. And then there's like the subcategory of ignore tier suppression commanders. So Golem was like the go-to offensive main boss commander. He was great offensively. All the big players used him because at the end of the day, he was still viable as a one-slot bus commander, but if he had to go toe-to-toe, he wasn't the worst defensive commander. Admittedly, he doesn't have any defensive skills. It was just like his offense was so good, people just mained him. Commanders like Rogers weren't around yet that could go immune and take the hits and really punish Golem, so Rogers was the counter to that. So Rogers is a main, the pure defensive types. Golem and Vega is a main for the pure offensive types, not, did I say defensive? Rogers, Reinhardt, defense. Golem, Vega, Stella, offense. And then there's the utility commanders like Hoodoo, who's could be played very specifically to catch somebody that's full marching you with like one troop of very high tier and then a bunch of other slots of Rangers just because they don't want to risk too much. Well, if you can kill those Rangers, the death rattle will blow up all the high tier as well. So it's a utility commander, Pocket Hoodoo. Watch the video if you haven't seen it. And it can be used with tier 9 airships or walkers, and it's that's really what it's for. He's not a great main commander. However, you do see people use him as a main commander now and again, but I think he's becoming less popular now that Elf is so good. So, yeah, Stella, Vega, Elf, Rogers. Those are main commanders. I mean, yeah, Golem kind of, but I still think Vega's better. And there's a few other infantry commanders that kind of evolve into these main commanders. But then Plasma. Plasma's always been this enigma. He's just this strange commander that has this bomb utility that occasionally you can get a ton of value out of. And the main problem I see with Plasma is he's so specifically built to infantry, right? And I feel like every class should have their like unique kind of utility commanders because it adds so much more variability to the game and how you want to defend yourself. So I used to think like, oh, walkers have Hoodoo, right? Airships have Rogers because he goes immune. You can kind of use him as Dodger Rogers as a utility commander. And then Plasma's a bomber. And everyone had their own. Infantry, airship, walker had their own utility class. But as you get later on into the game and you realize that Rogers really is only good against people that have the same tier or less than you. And Hoodoo is really only good against someone who has similar or close to your tier because like Hoodoo's bomb, his death rattle, it doesn't ignore tier suppression. So if his tier 2 goes off, or if he kills a bunch of Rangers with like tier 2 or tier 5 and the opponent is using tier 10, he can still be tier suppressed, so he doesn't kill as many troops in the death rattle as he could or it could be totally ignored if he tried to use tier 2 instead. I'm pretty sure that's right. I don't think they changed that, right? Tier 2 death rattles still don't kill tier 9 and tier 10. You got to use higher tier. So, yeah, definitely a utility commander, but Plasma has always been like an equal trader. If you throw Plasma into a fight, generally he can outscore somebody just with tier 2 if they're not using tier suppression, or equal tier if they're using a full march. If they're only using 3 troops per slot, I'm sorry, 3 armies in like a half-sized army and no troops in the back, then yeah, sometimes he doesn't trade very well. And if he's only going against 1 slot of troops, then he definitely isn't going to trade as well. But against a full march, Plasma is pretty much safe to trade. So anyway, the idea was, could you just make Plasma's skills all? And why not? Why not, right? He's such a cool... Like, what are ideas for commanders that would be good to add to the game? Well, Plasma's such a cool idea, and I haven't really seen any better suggestions for commander skills in over a year. So why not make Commander more useful to airships and walkers? I think it'd be a lot of fun. I mean, no one's going to play infantry just for Plasma, but he is there, and everyone who plays everything else still runs Plasma and infantry, so you may as well make him all troops types and let him be like a little more versatile for the walker players, and give the airship commanders something to play with as well. I don't know. I think it's a good idea. Frankly, I'd like to see more utility commanders. I feel like Rogers and Hoodoo are not the best utility commanders. I didn't mention Gilly. Gilly is a great utility commander, an absolute perfect beast counter to Stella. And then Reinhardt, not a utility commander. He's definitely an anti-Rogers, and in small marches, he's great against anti-Rogers. And there's a lot of like small army fighting going on. That's always been going on, but now it's definitely more popular with the higher level players because losing 1 tier 12 sucks. Losing 1 tier 9 sucks. Losing 1 tier 12 is much worse. And then Elixir was just a short Stella. So that's really it, man. There's just a lot of need for utility commanders, and I loved the idea. So I don't remember who suggested that. I should have wrote that down. But I thought it was a great idea, and I hadn't seen anyone suggest it before that. So anyway, this is the end of the video. Like it if you like it. If you want to see more Commander concept videos, I might do them, because I think that would help. I mean, we have all these ideas to change the metas and troops and scoring and galactic battle, but adding more commanders that we actually use would be a lot more fun too. So if you have ideas for commanders, put it in the comments below. If someone has a great idea in the comments below, upvote it or like it. I'll super like the good ones. And if you have original art for commanders, I'd love to see that. We don't have a lot of art, but if you go over to the Reddit, the subreddit for Arc of War, you can submit all types of concept art and interact with other players who are on that sub. But I wish that community took off a little more. So this is the subreddit. It could use a little work, art-wise. You know, come on, guys, get on that. Suave, Cronin, Doug, RidiculousBadger, Milky One. Come on, make this thing look a little better. But submit your ideas for commanders in the comments or on Reddit. And if you like the video, share it with your guildmates. Yeah. All right, that's it. Let's get back to more serious stuff. My name is Mel. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.